Valerie was strolling lightly through the snow with her baby on her back. Little did she know that the grizzly bear was already waiting for her to walk by. She went over to grab herself some good. It was too late. The grizzly bear roaming around jumped out of the woods and tackled her to the ground. If you've ever been afraid of being assaulted by a bear while strolling around a national park, you won't be the first. Bears are among the strongest and most dangerous animals on the planet, known for their vicious behavior and aggressive tendencies. Most bears are actually shy animals and prefer avoiding contact with most humans they encounter. But as the human civilization grows and human settlements wander into natural territories, bear attacks increase. While many national park rangers know how to deal with bears and keep most visitors safe, that's not always the case. And many unfortunate victims have been injured or even killed by bears while in the woods. In this video, we'll show you 5 brutal bear attack stories that'll scare you from ever setting foot in a national park again. The Grizzly Night of 1967. It was a long summer night in 1967. Back in the 1960s, there wasn't a bear-proof garbage can and no safety warnings at U.S. national parks that could alert visitors to the presence of bears. The 2 women were both 19 years old and employees at 2 of the park's lodges. They were just coming along on an overnight backpacking trip with friends, but grizzlies had been spotted near lodges and campsites in the park for weeks. The 2 victims were Julie Helgeson and Michelle Coons. They were sleeping under the starry night, sharing marshmallows by the campfire, without knowing what was awaiting for them, lurking in the dark. Hungry and aggressive grizzlies were stalking their small campsite. The 2 girls fell asleep with each of their friend groups. Helgeson and a friend woke up in the middle of the night, in the pre-dawn hours, by a large grizzly who was suddenly sniffing at their sleeping bags. Both parties were no strangers to bears, as scary as the situation was. They tried to play dead, but it wasn't enough. The grizzly sunk his teeth and claws into both of them. One of them dragged Helgeson away, screaming for help in the dead of night. Helgeson was found hours later by a ranger search party, but she was so badly injured that she died before the rescue helicopter could reach the hospital. Coons and her friends had more time to react, but their fate was unfortunately similar. They were cooking dinner when the grizzly bear raided their camp. They managed to escape without much damage to their campsite and no injuries to any of their members, yet. They thought the grizzly bear was sated, so they went to a beach to sleep. The bear followed them to their new site, returning at roughly 4:30 a.m. Coon's friends could climb up to nearby trees once they heard the mighty beast roar, but she wasn't so lucky. Coons was mauled by the bear, who bit off her arm. It didn't take much time for her to succumb to her wounds before help arrived. Because of these 2 attacks, which were even chronicled in the 1969 book Night of the Grizzlies by Jack Olson, policies were changed at U.S. national parks to prevent the feeding of animals. Campsites and trash near trails with bear activity were also forbidden. As bad as it sounds, a worse attack happened decades before the Grizzly Night. The Ussuri Massacre of Sankebetsu. It was a harrowing week in December of 1915, when a ravenous bear showed everyone in the outpost of Sankebetsu why you shouldn't make homes near bear settlements. One of the deadliest and largest bear species in the world is the Ussuri, which inhabits the Japanese island of Hokkaido. These bears are so aggressive that last century, at least 86 Ussuri attacks were recorded on Hokkaido, with around 33 fatalities. The outpost of Sankebetsu was home to several families, and no one expected a sudden bear attack in the midst of winter, when all bears are hibernating. A hungry and agitated 750-pound and 9 feet long bear awoke early, stalking the victims to their homes and killing them. The town retaliated by assembling an armed security squad, but they were helpless against the almost daily attacks. They subdued the bear with multiple gunfire wounds, but it just kept returning to claim more victims. The bear attacks got so out of hand that they had to call in professional bear hunters to kill it. They finally managed to do it, but the bear had killed 7 people, mostly women and children, including a pregnant woman. Most of the villagers moved as far away as they could from Sankebetsu. A shrine was erected to commemorate the lives lost in the brutal attack of the Ussuri bear. The Grizzly Man. While these 2 deadly bear attacks involved people who didn't know much about bears' behaviors or just didn't see any of the attacks coming. There's another gruesome story of a man known as the Grizzly Man. You've probably heard of him in the past. His name was Timothy Treadwell. Treadwell became famous because he was a friend of the grizzly bears living in Alaska's Kadi National Park. It was there that he documented his close relationship with these terrifying creatures. He spent a whopping 13 years of springs and summers filming his playful interactions with wild grizzlies. He even had set names for many of these, such as Crackers and Mr. Chocolate. What's more shocking is that Treadwell had no professional expertise on bears nor any wildlife training whatsoever. The man was a self-proclaimed protector of the grizzlies and had much media coverage in magazines and TV profiles. Most famously, he appeared in the 2005 documentary Grizzly Man, which tells us how his fascination with grizzly bears ended. Treadwell and his girlfriend stayed in a tent in the wild for a couple of days on a camping trip. On October 5, 2003, they were mauled and killed by a starving grizzly bear who went to their tent. But what's more terrifying is how Treadwell had his camera rolling. The bear's stomach was later found to contain human remains and clothing, so it's safe to say that he ate them. Since the lens cap was in place, only the dreadful audio of his tortured screams remained. Some people have heard the tape and suggested that it should be destroyed. It was that bad. Bear attacks mother and daughter. But that's not the only case of a fatality caused by a hungry bear influenced by hibernation. A teacher and her infant daughter went on a trip to spend the fall at a cabin at Einerson Lake, around 400 kilometers northeast of Whitehorse. The teacher was 37-year-old Valerie Thierret, and her daughter, 10-month-old Adele Roseholt. Thierret's partner, Yermund Roseholt, was also staying with them at the time. Roseholt went to check the trap line on November 26 when the attack happened. An emaciated male grizzly bear was roaming the area, desperately looking for something to eat before hibernation. The bear was 18 years old and weighed 137 kilograms. He did not have enough body fat to survive through the winter. The bear followed Roseholt's fresh snowmobile track, which led to the cabin. Thierret was out for a walk, carrying her baby on her back. The bear noticed their approach and hid among some branches to wait for the perfect moment to strike. When Thierret and her baby came close, it struck out and bit her, causing her to die almost immediately, along with her daughter. The attack was so sudden that Valerie didn't have time to react. They found the mother and the daughter in the cabin, and it mauled them to death. It was then that Roseholt found the bodies of his partner and daughter and shot the bear. In the necropsy, it was found that the bear was already turning to uncommon food sources and in pain from eating a porcupine to avoid starving to death. And that is why residents of Yukon stay away from these bear trails during the winter. No one wants to be on the way of a hungry bear before the rush of hibernation.